Edgeworth Visitor Centre and Museum in Edgeworthstown in County Longford. My name is Matt Farrell and I'm a member of the Edgeworth Society, and I'm also a volunteer manager of the centre here in Edgeworthstown. Well, Richard Lovell Edgeworth was a descendant of an English family who were granted lands here by James I in 1619. And he was very unusual. He was an eccentric. He had a great interest, studied the law, but his main interest was in mechanics. And he was sent to university in Oxford, where he was fortunate enough to meet Erasmus Darwin, the grandfather of Charles Darwin. And Darwin had a great interest in carriages and engineering, and that led Edgeworth to be introduced to some famous people who were considered the founding members of the Industrial Revolution, and they included James Watt, Matthew Boulton, Joshua Wedgwood. Edgeworth, he was a very unusual man, as I said, and while he was married he fell in love with who was to become his second wife, and to resist temptation he went to work in France, and he was employed on a project to divert the River Rhone, and they had a problem that they were removing the silt and they were banking it up along the banks, and then when the rains came the silt was washed back into the Rhone. So Edgeworth devised this machine. It was like a tote bin that ran on ropes, and so he was able to carry the silt away from the riverbed. He also invented, I suppose his first one, which brought him into contact with Darwin, was that he invented a carriage that could run on the road, and it was powered by a sail. But the British government banned it because of for safety reasons. So Edgeworth's main interest was in efficiency. He was running an estate here in Edgeworthstown, and he wanted things to run efficiently. And he felt that springs played an important role in the manufacture of carriages. And the more efficient the spring was, the bigger payload he could carry, and the less work that the animal had to do in pulling the cart. In the early 1800s, Edgeworth was appointed to a commission, the Boggs Commission, and the British government wanted to see if they could get economic value from the bogs here in Ireland. And Edgeworth sat on that commission, and he surveyed 10,000 acres of bogs here in the Midlands. But in his final report, he included a number of designs for machines that could be used in the bog. One of those machines was this one here, which was a rail track and a carriage which could remove the peat from the bog. And you have to remember that we didn't even have steam at that time, so there were no mechanical functions. It had to be used manually on the rail track. And over 120 years later, Bord na Móna adopted Edgeworth's design for extracting peat from the bogs. He also developed what was called, nowadays we know it as the caterpillar, and Edgeworth described it as the machine that ran on its own road. So it consisted of a number of sleepers that were joined together, and the machine ran on the sleepers, and as it went forward it pulled the sleepers that were behind over the top of the machine, landed on the bog, and then the machine could drive on it. Well, when you're driving along the roads, you're driving on a surface that we commonly know as macadam, and if fair was fair, you should be driving on a road that's called Edgeworth, a surface that's called Edgeworth, because Edgeworth designed a system of the construction of roads which involved different types and different sizes of aggregate that when rolled into the ground formed a solid surface. And unfortunately he didn't patent it, and a few years later McAdam, the Scotsman, used Edgeworth's ideas to develop his system, and he went down in history as the man that developed the most efficient roads. And as it is today, I've spoken to an engineer that works in our local council here, and he's told me they went back from Macadam's design back to Edgeworth's design because it was more efficient. Why not come to the Maria Edgeworth Centre in Edgeworthstown in County Longford, where you can hear about this remarkable family. So do come and see us, and we're looking forward to meet you.